Hi, I'm Angie with Crawdaddy Magazine, and I'm sitting here with Victor Krummenacher. Victor just came in and played a session for us. And you're involved with a lot of bands. Many different projects.
Yeah.
Camper Van Beethoven, Monks of Doom, McCabe Mrs. Miller,
Yep.
As well as your own solo ventures.
That's about the list these days.
Yeah. And then, but you just did, a set from one collection called Patriarch's Blues.
Yeah, which was something we wanted to do here for a while. And
Yeah.
I just was able to line up the cards. And
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that project because I know
Please.
there's a story behind it, and
Yeah.
would you like to kind of share the making of it?
Well, I mean, what happened was about 3 years ago, my father and my stepfather died within 3 weeks of each other. And my stepfather had been struggling for a while, and we were anticipating it as a possibility. And my dad had a stroke when he was in his 50s, and then just had a series. And so my dad went very quickly, and my stepfather was ill at the same time, and it was just completely chaotic and a really, really difficult experience. And it was the first time I'd lost a parent, which is hard for anybody if they haven't been through it. And I could only, as happens when parents die, sometimes you get, I got a little bit of money. I didn't, get a big inheritance or anything, but I had a little money sitting around after this really traumatic experience, and just my only instinct as to how to deal with it psychologically was to call my friends, who were musicians, and get them in the studio and just go for it.
How long after their passing did you decide to channel this for that project?
My stepfather died the day before Thanksgiving, and we were in the studio about 3 months later.
Oh, wow, quickly.
So we did it really quickly, and I had I've been doing solo records for a long time with the same core of people, the same people who played with me today. And I brought in a few people from Camper who were in the area, because they're, brothers in arms, as it were. But I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I sat around and just audited. I have a pretty large collection of music, and went and listened to folk songs and blues songs. There was a poem that was read at my stepfather's funeral, which is a fairly famous poem called Funeral Blues, and that was kind of the keynote. Because
The W.H. Auden.
W.H. Auden poem, and my mom was like, "We're gonna have this poem read," and I was like, "Mom, that's not really nice. It's a hard poem." And she's like, "It's not an easy day. This is not an easy day. Let's go for it. If we're gonna grieve, we're gonna grieve." And the reading was great, and of course, then, my lyrical side was like beyond the grief I was experiencing. It's like, wow, that's a really excellent poem. Somebody surely has set this to music, right? And this is how the whole thing kind of just started off, because I knew I was going to respond musically. Nobody had ever, the song called or a poem called Funeral Blues, nobody had ever recorded as a blues.
When was that written? Do you know?
In the 1930s.
Yeah.
And my immediate, they're like, these classical music versions, and like chamber music, very abstract and beautiful in their own right, but not a blues. And I had been playing a lot of blues with these guys who were all blues players, and in their own right. My pedal steel player worked with John Lee Hooker, and my drummers worked with Robert Cray, and
the group that sat in with you today.
The group that sat in with me today. And so I was like, well, here we go. And so we started there, and then I wrote a couple of things and found some folk songs, and it was a 2-day record.
Wow.
Literally 2 days. We went in, we had 8 people playing in the studio live. Most of the songs they'd never heard, simple chord charts. It goes like this, just play. And we just played. And there was almost no editing. It's almost all first or second take. There's a lot of...
Blues should be raw.
Yeah, some mutes here and there. And we did some vocal overdubs, but just a few. And I think it was the most kind of lasting testimony and the kind of most visceral record. I've made a lot of great records. I've been in a lot of great bands and keep making great music, but it was probably the most visceral recording experience that group of people had ever participated in, and everybody commented on it. Everybody brought it. So the record's had a kind of great staying power and a lot of legs for me. A lot of people refer to it. It's become, for people who know it, it's a pretty resonant thing. And we've been talking about coming in here and performing it, and we also had just been in the studio recording the next record, the follow-up record, and we figured, well, let's kind of cap it and give people an idea of what we do. And also, the thing that I do that I've always been the most proud of is bring a group of people who are great musicians into a room and try and get them to interplay and have the language of the music be there. And it's not about me as much as it is about getting them to speak, because that's when the magic happens. And just being able to find a group of people I can do that with.
How do you feel that making the record so quickly in the studio kind of contributed to the cathartic process for you? Do you wish it was kind of more drawn out and linger, or?
It was like lightning in a bottle. I mean, I just, we brought candles and photos and whiskey, and, I put up photos of my stepfather and my father around the studio, and we lit a few candles.
Sure, you really felt their presence,
Yeah, and I mean, literally, like, go have a snort, let's go. And we just, I don't like to wallow. I mean, you have to grieve, you have to feel it, and you have to go through it.
Especially as an artist. I mean, it's something you have to be in touch with.
Exactly.
Obviously.
So I had to crawl into it. But, I've been known, my solo stuff has always been kind of dark anyways, but, I don't always feel particularly very dark as a person. And so for me, I just really wanted that to be a concentrated experience. And, my mom wouldn't listen to it for months and months.
I'm sure it was really hard for her.
She's like, I'm not going to listen to it. And finally, she just found the time and the courage probably to sit down and listen to it. And then she called me and she's like, well, there's some upbeat stuff on here. This is kind of a happy record at points too. And I'm like, well, I mean, if you're talking about life in its broadest sense.
Yeah, and you're celebrating their lives.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it was just, and a lot of people have tackled the death thing, and a lot of people have had to, John Hyatt, Bring the Family, is like a great example of somebody dealing with grief through music. I mean, I grew up, I've been on the road since I was 18, so, sometimes it's the only way I know how to actually cope with things.
Yeah, and what a great way to channel it. I mean, into something that is lasting. It's a testament of your experience with the loss and everything.
Exactly.
Have you taken it on the road as a singular project, or I'm sure you play certain songs
we
from
played it, I mean, my life is so chaotic musically. Half the time I never quite know what the next step will be, and I just kind of take things as they come. When Patriarchs came out, we played it quite a bit, and then what happened, actually, Patriarchs Blues begat McCabe and Mrs. Miller, which is the project I do with Alison Levy, who was in the Sippy Cups. She came and sang on it. And
it probably sounds great with female vocals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so we were doing all this duet stuff, and she's like, I've always wanted to write songs with you. And I said, well, yeah, I've wanted to write songs with you too. Why don't we? So we started writing songs, and then that became this project now that I'm doing called McCabe and Mrs. Miller. So this record was the birth of that band in many ways. And that, we did a record that was much more light and happy and wound up playing quite a bit.
It's probably a nice balance for you too, to turn your material into kind of another direction at that time.
Exactly. I think the thing was, like, this was such a heavy record for me that I had to kind of turn a corner and go and do some lighter stuff. And like the challenge of writing for a female voice and writing, and Alison is very sassy on stage and has just a really buoyant presence, which is not me, and I was like, wow. And I need to write songs for you. It was a great challenge. It was a great kind of...
It strikes that great balance, yeah. It sounds
exactly.
Good.
And then, as soon as, we were kind of done touring that, now Camper, which has been kind of dormant for a period of time, we're playing Key Lime Pie on the road, which is a record that we'd never tackled live, really. We toured it a little bit when it came out in 1989. And we had to learn 6 songs. And, Camper's one of those kind of like, I'll fly in, we'll play a show, and we just kind of do it, and we have, 80 songs in the set list, so you can kind of get away with it. And we had to learn new material for the first time. We actually had to get people in a room and rehearse.
Get rehearsals, yeah.
And so suddenly now we've got momentum with that. And I think it's interesting. I think Patriarchs Blues is just, it always shows me how one thing leads to the next, with me at least.
Sure.
And there's not enough time in the day for me to do everything I want to do. It's just the truth of the matter. So I just kind of go where the energy's hot and feels good. So I went from solo stuff and doing this very heavy record to doing this light thing with Alison, and then suddenly Camper gets re-energized after a long period of time, and then I start doing that, and then there's always the chance for a Monks of Doom gig. And
so, I mean, you do have so much going on pretty much at all times, and you're a graphic designer.
Yep.
Is there any projects you want to speak to right now and for the next coming year? So your fans have an idea of
we have so much going on at Camper. I think a lot because people ask me this all the time, like, when's Camper going to do something?
Like a big tour.
I don't know that we'll ever really do the big tours because it's just like the money model is so different now. And this is the thing. The music industry is just like, it's completely screwed up. And this is one of the reasons why I just keep going and doing different projects, because it's like there's never really enough financial momentum, you know, to quit my day job. And, you know, I have a mortgage. And that's just, I'm a working musician. It's a story that, you know, all my musicians are like that. We all have to do a bunch of stuff.
Unless you want to live in poverty. You know,
exactly.
like,
And, and I know that trip, but it's like, you know, I did live in poverty. I don't really want, you know, I'm going to be 46 soon. It's like, I don't really feel like doing that anymore. So what we're trying to do is keep the energy good and keep the projects focused. And we're quickly kind of finding this area where like the album model is maybe not, you know, not the thing anymore.
Right.
Because things have just kind of gotten so far off, and people are downloading music, and frequently they're downloading just singles and stuff like that. So I think this year you're going to see, we're going to do a camper single or an EP. And I think we're just going to do it. It's going to be probably really aggressive and really fast. But we really want to get something out this year because it's been a while. You're going to see a Victor solo. I don't know. We got together and we recorded, and we're talking at dinner. Well, how are we going to do this time? And I'm like, I don't know if I'm even going to make a CD this time. I think I'm going to make an iPad app.
Oh, okay. So you already have material recorded for this next project.
We have a bunch of stuff recorded, and I don't know. We're trying all these alternatives. So like David and I talk about Camper. It's like, well, single or EP. You know, and I'm talking about solo stuff. It's like iPad app.
You can be as innovative as you want.
Exactly. And this is what I do by day anyways. You know, it's like a design iPad apps. Well, let's make an iPad app. Let's see, you know, and then just have a link where people can go to iTunes or whatever and download the music. I'm just interested in kind of, if the formats are changing so much right now and everything's changing, and I'm just gonna
roll with it.
I got 4 different projects. The Monks of Doom are halfway done with a record, but we're notoriously slow. So that would probably take another year. I think if I had my druthers, I'd force everybody to go in the studio right now and finish it, but that's probably not going to happen.
It's not realistic, but yeah.
And then Alison and I are due to make a record soon. And the material's written, but I'm just going to kind of hold off because I think 2 records at one time is good.
So you have tons of stuff going on right now, so appreciate you taking the time to stop in here today and
many
talk to
shows.
us and play a show for us.
Yeah.
It was really great.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Nice to document it.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
Thank you.